Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for November 7th, 2024. Well, my goodness, what a day yesterday. I had suggested in yesterday's video the possibility of a whipsaw, to watch for that. No whipsaw to come yesterday. The bulls were out in force, pushing up to new record highs in the indexes and really celebrating the fact, I think part of the reason celebrating the fact that this wasn't a lingering election, that it was decisive. So how about we take a look at what happened overnight? Well, Asian markets perked back up a little bit last night, with Shanghai moving up substantially, up 86 points at 2.57%. Hong Kong also bouncing higher, up 2% on the day. We had India was lower by 1.16%. South Korea was a little bit higher. The Nikkei also just a little bit lower on the day, 0.25%. And Australia up 0.33%. If we take a look across the pond here at Europe, Europe's got a little bit of a mix. Now, Europe closed down across the board yesterday, but the CAC is getting a big pop up here this morning, up 238 points, or 1.25%, while the FTSE is looking a little bit lower, 0.72%, and the CAC is showing more of a modest gain at $42.51, or 0.58%. If we look at U.S. futures this morning, much more modest this morning, but the interesting thing is we're showing a willingness to follow through after that big record push to the upside. Right now, Dow futures are up 91 points at 0.21%, S&P 500 futures up 1075, or 0.18%, and NASDAQ futures up 4875, up 0.23%. Now, if we take a look at bonds this morning, bonds are continuing to be a little bit of an issue for us here. We're continuing to see those bond rates go higher, or interest rates going higher here, with the 2-year bonds at 4.26%. The 10-year right now is at 4.45%. And the 30-year is trading at 4.63%. So one of the things I think everyone needs to question, can we continue to see a very bullish market while the rates continue to go up? I find that hard to believe, but which means something is going to have to give here eventually. But keep an eye on that as we move along. If we take a look at the oil market here this morning, oil's a bit lower here today. Right now, oil futures are down 94 cents at 70.75 a barrel. Brent is down 77 cents at 74.14 a barrel. And natural gas is also just ever so slightly lower. UNG tried to get a little bit going yesterday, but now we're just slightly, it's less than half a cent lower here this morning. Precious metals had a rough day yesterday. Gold was down substantially yesterday, $80 an ounce, as the dollar soared higher. But gold this morning still down right now, $3.70 an ounce lower. Silver slightly lower here by 19 cents. Copper is slightly up. Platinum and palladium are also lower here on the day. And if we do take a look at the US dollar UUP, it is gapping down here a little bit this morning, but you can see already trying to push back up. And as a matter of fact, dollar futures right now are up 81.5 cents. So you'll want to be keeping an eye on the dollar as it continues to show strength. Let's take a look at crypto markets here this morning. After the zooming move in Bitcoin yesterday, up nearly, well, over $6,000 at the close of the day, this morning Bitcoin is easing back here just a little bit. Right now down $1,194 a coin, while Ether is still zooming to the upside, up 4.22%, or $113 a coin. And we're seeing mostly green in other cryptos here this morning. So, what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, so that we can do a better job of putting that emotion aside and looking at the technicals here in the chart. So if we take a look at the diamonds, you can see a full-on breakout here without question, and the bulls continue to push on through. So all we have to the upside is blue sky above in the diamonds, and we're setting new records here this morning in the pre-market. Now, if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, again, blue sky above, there's no restriction up there, so we'll see how far they can go. If the bears, however, find any kind of inspiration, I would suggest maybe a pullback to test this area of price support. Now, even though we are pushing higher, I would still expect at some point in time a rest or pullback to test this area of support. Now, where things could get a little bit worrisome maybe for the market, if that celebration were to fade back below this breakout here, then we would start to raise a little bit of concern in the market. But right now, the bulls are definitely in control, large and in charge, and continuing to push hard in this market. If we take a look at the SPY, same thing is true here. Now, they did leave behind a little bit of a hanging man type pattern up here, but the fact that we're following through this morning, seeing that bullish push, kind of discounts that. Remember, blue sky above here in the SPY as well. There is nothing up here at the moment that would prevent us from continuing to move on higher, so keep an eye on that. Now, if the bears were to find some kind of inspiration, once again, I'm going to suggest that possibility of a pullback in here to test this area of support. Now, this, if it slips a little bit more down into here, we've got a good support area here in this chart that shouldn't be too bad if we slip down into there. But beyond that, we would probably raise a little bit of fear and concern. Certainly not showing up this morning in the chart. And then if we look at our QQQ, boy, they worked hard yesterday, struggling here with this resistance high for just a bit, but following on through new record highs. So we've got new record highs in the diamond, SPY, and QQQ on this election, and really pushing this morning to the upside. So keep a close eye on that as we continue to push up. The only concern that you would have is if the bears were to find some reason to push back, and that pushback would come back into maybe this support area. And you can see we have a pretty strong area of price support right in here. So I don't think the market would worry too much if we slipped back into there. Beyond that point, there might be a little bit of concern in the market. So if we take a look at our IWM is the only index at the moment, has not been able to break to new record highs. But what we did yesterday was pretty remarkable, jumping right through the 2021 resistance highs. And we're seeing follow-through bullishness here this morning, and the upside move is right over here. That's the high point in 2021, as you can see, just before we rolled over into 2022. That's that high point up there. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on that as we stretch back up that resistance high up here. Every reason to believe the way the bulls are acting right now that we could push right on up there. And then, of course, blue sky above that area. The question would be, if the bears were to have anything to say here today, then a pushback maybe to test the high point of those 2021 highs, this resistance right across in here. is now become support. So if we were to catch a little bit of a pullback, pulling back into here, we'd want to try and catch there. If we drop below that, maybe a little bit of worry starts coming back into the market, but we've got a little support right there that could grab a hold and hold us. Let's take a look at our VIX. Big change in our VIX yesterday. Our VIX dropping through our price support here, as you can see, and our trend just bang, moving to the downside. So now we're looking at this area of price support right in through here to see if that holds. If the bulls can continue to push like they are this morning, maybe we even come down into here, down here around those 14 handles in the VIX for a pushback. It'd only be if the bears have something to say today that we might push back up just a little bit and retest this resistance here in the chart. If we take a look at our T20s, T2122 had a great day yesterday, but not as big a day as I was expecting. Kind of interesting that we could move that many points and not break into this bearish reversal zone. So what that means is the bulls still have room to push today and push up here into that bearish reversal zone. And when we're up in here, we do want to be watching for that potential of a pullback or even that potential whipsaw with the gap up here this morning. Now, if the bears have anything to say, well, just kind of keeping in mind, we've opened up a very big opportunity for those bears to push back if we run into any reason to stumble this morning. If we take a look at our T2108, massive improvement here in T2108, getting back above 50% yesterday, pushing back up toward these resistance areas in the chart, so you'll want to be keeping an eye on that. Remember, we've got area up here in resistance on T2108, mid-60s, mid-70s. We start to get a bit on the frothy side here. We have before gone well above that, but that's an extreme overbought condition. So once we get up into here, watch that carefully. We might get a little bit of resting pullback in the market. Our T2107, very much the same. Big improvement yesterday, pushing to the upside, getting close to 60% of the stocks above their 200-day all at once. But you will want to remember here in T2107 that when we get up here toward those mid-65s, we're getting into a very, very frothy zone, and we're seeing an overbought condition really pick up. So watch that carefully here also in the market. Now, if we take a look at our T2101, this is what gives me a little bit of concern about yesterday's rally. Big moves in yesterday's rally, just huge. And the breadth of the market, wow. That was one really weak performance in market breadth considering how much we moved yesterday. So we'll want to be keeping a close eye on this. If our breadth doesn't begin to pick up here, that could be worrisome as we continue to stretch to new highs. That opens a door for those bears to maybe push back. So watch that carefully here in T2101. Kind of an interesting, can't ever remember seeing such a big move in the market and the breadth being so, just not performing. Very strange. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, we do have some work to get through. And by the way, this morning on the economic calendar, Bank of England has already reported this morning cutting interest rates by 1/4 point. And we know that the FOMC is a high probability, according to Fed Funds Futures, it's about 96.1% chance that the FOMC is going to cut rates here this morning by 25 basis points. So keep an eye on that this afternoon. But first off, this morning, we got to get through these jobless claims. Jobless claims, they're expecting in the consensus 221,000. So keep an eye on that. We've got productivity and costs here this morning. Looking for our productivity number to stay flat at 2.5%. What's interesting is they're expecting unit labor costs to increase from a 0.4 to a 1.0. That could be a little bit of a problem. So watch those carefully here this morning. We're going to get those wholesale inventories and natural gas report. We've got some bond auctions in here to be paying attention to before we get into the Fed decision, the press conference at 2:30 Eastern time, and then we've got consumer credit and Fed balance sheet to finish up the day. Looking into Friday, remember we've got consumer sentiment numbers, and we're going to start getting those Fed speakers coming out here, and now coming out from underneath their blackout period, and then of course Baker Hughes rig count that we'll be paying attention to. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar, and our earnings calendar is huge today. We've got a large number of earnings to be paying attention to here today. So I'm going to suggest that you find that link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog to catch that full list. We have things like GOLF reporting this morning. We've got a little steel in here, MT. We've got BDX reporting today. We're going to hear from CCJ. We've got Datadog will be in there. We are going to hear from like AG, HAIN. We've got Halliburton reporting. We're going to hear from Donut. We've got Krispy Kremes out there. Planet Fitness will be in there. So we've got a big morning of earnings reports. Under Armour reporting, so quite a few coming our way this morning. And then this afternoon, we've got like DKNG, one of our most notables here for this afternoon, AKAM. We're going to hear from stocks like DH, CPay, MTD, M&S Monster Beverage. So we've got quite a few this afternoon to be paying attention to as well. So make sure you click that link below the title of the video. Go back to the blog to catch that full list if you have an interest in it. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that favor, we all know what's coming. If you could click that subscribe button on YouTube, also click that bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click those thumbs up buttons, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Remember, even an emoji counts as connection to or a reaction to the video, and helps the algorithm show these videos to more folks. So thank you, everyone, for your kind support of the effort. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to be doing your own due diligence and be very, very careful in the market. You need to be thinking about the elevation that we're reaching in the market when you consider these trades, that at any point in time we could start and get a little rest in the market. But that being said, follow your rules and your trading guidelines, and never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade idea. Well, you guys know that I've been talking about Bumble for some time. It was stuck in that consolidation. Well, we finally got some movement right before earnings. Had a good pop on earnings that came back, and you can see now this morning, looks like we're coming back into this support area. So with that volatility, if we happen to hold this price support and turn back to the upside, I think there still might be some opportunity there. So watch that carefully. However, if that Bumble cannot hold this price support and we sink down below here, then I would step aside on this and watch it carefully, because it could then end up being a short. So watch that carefully there on Bumble. Let's take a look at Micron. Micron having a good bounce back, really strong bounce back in here. Pushing back up above what I'd had an alert. I was looking for this to rest in here and maybe pop on higher. Nope, she went to the downside, but a big bounce back up here. So any consolidation, rest, or pullback in here sets up that inverted head and shoulders pattern here on Micron. So I would keep an eye on that. There may be some upside opportunity there on Micron. Now, when I look at Microsoft, I really can't say the same. Now, Microsoft pushing back up. It is breaking back up through that little upside trend on that big bullish move yesterday. But as we close this gap in here on the chart, we come back up into here. I would be watching carefully for that possibility that Microsoft could continue to fade back down. Watch that carefully here. Some of the big tech giants are starting to run into that situation where their big spend on AI is not producing any money. And we heard from Microsoft that the increased spend next year is likely going to dip into their profits. So watch that carefully here as this rallies. It could set up an interesting short opportunity here in the market. Now, certainly can't say that for NVIDIA. NVIDIA breaking out to new record highs, and of course we want to be keeping an eye on this because it will now be included in the Dow coming on Friday. We will now be in the Dow index, will no longer be even resemble an industrial index. It will be dominated by tech. So watch that carefully here as that occurs. But as we continue to push up in this chart, and it's normal that that occurs because so many institutions and things have to adjust everything that they do, just their buying and selling of the stock, because of the inclusion into the Dow. So watch that carefully here in NVIDIA. Take a look at Qualcomm. Qualcomm, big pop on earnings yesterday, but it wasn't so much that makes it, something that you don't want to be keeping an eye on. Breaking through this resistance in here is a really good bullish push here, kind of a kicker to the upside. So watch that carefully. If this were to rest back or consolidate here, look for that next opportunity then into Qualcomm, trying to show some pretty good bullishness there overall in that chart. Now, things that are looking pretty rough, if we take a look at healthcare, my goodness, although we gapped back up here yesterday in this move, we start looking at, this is Huntsman, not we start looking at this and we start seeing major resistance areas. And as we rally back up into this downtrend, you've got to start watching in here for that potential of that fade to the downside. And there are quite a few of those showing up when we look at things like First Solar. Pretty rough day yesterday, bouncing down. It did recover quite a bit, but as this rallies back up into this area of price resistance here, I'd be watching for that potential short. And remember, this is a result of one of the ramifications of election, and likely some of these green energy stocks running into some trouble. So keep an eye on that. Now, when we take a look at stocks like Carvana, boy, it is continuing to be really strong. And what I found interesting yesterday, and something that's been so bullish, is it didn't really zoom to the upside. So as this rests and consolidates, I think this is healthy. If this rests or consolidates and comes back to trend, I'd be looking for that next opportunity there, pushing to the upside. Now, one thing that suffered pretty heavily yesterday was some of the things in the consumer staples area. Big sell-off there in consumer staples with XLP, big old bearish engulfing candle coming in. Now, we are going to come into a little bit of price support right in here, but there still is some downside. So if this were to rally back at all, I would look for that next opportunity in some of those consumer staples to the downside. Watch that carefully. Now, although we have had quite the move here in the dollar, what I'd be watching for here, if that dollar rests or consolidates, comes back in here to a little bit of support, maybe filling that gap in here. Right now, there is a lot of clues that the dollar just wants to keep going up. Watch that carefully. If we continue to see those bond yields going higher and higher and higher, watch for that opportunity here that the dollar will continue to strengthen. Yesterday, it hit a yearly high, pushing up with a lot of strength in the U.S. dollar. So a lot of changes starting to happen with the policy changes that are kind of expected under a new administration. So we'll want to be watching closely. Another area that is getting some major trouble here now, because RFK is likely going to be on the case now of the big pharma situation. So watch that carefully. We're seeing a lot of pharma. We're seeing a lot of healthcare move to the downside now. So big shift in these. Any rally back up, I would be watching for those potential short trades here in the market. And another a big ramification is the big winners that are coming here in the banking system. If we take a look at XLF, huge move here in the financials yesterday. If we look at BAC gapping up, huge move to the upside. Citibank gapping up. When we look at pay systems, big push in things like Visa, MasterCard moving up, possibly breaking out. If we look at American Express, big breakout to the upside. Even things like SQ had a great day yesterday, trying to follow through today. PayPal also making that bullish appearance here, pushing up. Any rest or consolidation in here looks like an opportunity to maybe pick up some PayPal. So keep an eye on some of those pay systems showing lots of strength after the election. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. Be careful, be safe. I'll see you right back here bright and early Friday morning. Have a great day, everyone.